May 8, 1945. Germany has surrendered. The war in Europe is over. But for captured German generals and field commanders, a new experience awaits, meeting their conquerors face to face. Among the most feared American commanders is General George S. Patton, whose Third Army has torn through German defenses from Normandy to Czechoslovakia. German officers know his name. They've studied his tactics. They've faced his forces and lost. Now, in various settings across occupied Germany, surrender ceremonies, intelligence debriefings, prisoner processing, German officers meet Patton in person. What they see shocks them. What they say afterward reveals fascinating insights about Patton, about professional military culture, and about how soldiers view the man who defeated them. The comments range from grudging respect to open admiration to horror at his opinions. Some German officers call him the only American general who understands modern warfare. Others call him a dangerous fanatic. Almost all agree on one thing: he's different from other Allied commanders. This is their story, what German officers said after meeting George S. Patton, the American general who beat them and earned their complicated respect. The most common comment from German officers who met Patton: he fights like a German. This is meant as the highest compliment from the professional German officer corps. What they mean: Patton understands maneuver warfare, aggressive movement, encirclement, exploitation of breakthroughs. He emphasizes speed and decisive action over methodical advances. He leads from the front, personally involved in operations rather than commanding from distant headquarters. He's willing to take risks for operational gains. All of these are hallmarks of German military doctrine, particularly the blitzkrieg tactics Germany pioneered. General Major Fritz Bayerlein, who fought against Patton in France, said after meeting him in May 1945, "General Patton is the most dangerous man the Americans have. He fights the way we do, fast, aggressive, always attacking. If all American generals fought like Patton, the war would have ended sooner and cost us much more." Another officer, whose name is redacted in intelligence reports, said, "Meeting him, I understood why Third Army was so effective. He has the mind of a Prussian cavalry officer, always thinking about the next attack, never defensive, always forward." In another era, he would have commanded panzers for Germany. This comparison to German tactical doctrine is double-edged, its professional respect from one warrior to another. But it also implies Patton is unusual among American commanders, who Germans generally view as more cautious and methodical. German officers meeting Patton in person comment repeatedly on his personal presence, both positive and negative. General Feldmarschall Albert Kesselring, who surrendered to American forces, met Patton at a ceremony in Bavaria. His later assessment: Patton is everything you hear, arrogant, theatrical, absolutely convinced of his own brilliance. But there's substance beneath the show. He knows armor warfare intimately. When he speaks about tactics, even his enemies must listen because he's usually right. Another senior officer noted, "He wears those ridiculous ivory-handled pistols and makes grand pronouncements like he's Julius Caesar. It would be laughable except for one thing: his record. He defeated us repeatedly." So the theatrics are backed by competence, which makes them less absurd and more intimidating. The charisma is mentioned frequently: he commands a room. When Patton enters, everyone notices. It's not just the uniform or the pistols, it's his absolute certainty that he's the best commander present. And having fought his Third Army, I can't entirely argue. But the arrogance troubles some: he's insufferable. He speaks to captured German officers like we're primitive barbarians who stumbled into modern warfare. He has no respect for German military tradition, despite borrowing liberally from our tactical doctrine. The consensus: Patton is brilliant, effective, and impossible to like, unless you're under his command. Multiple German tank commanders, after meeting or being briefed by Patton, make variations of the same comment: he should have commanded panzers. General Major Hans von Luck, a highly decorated panzer commander, met Patton briefly during surrender proceedings. His assessment: General Patton understands armored warfare better than any Allied commander I faced. He grasps what we learned in Poland and France: tanks must move fast, bypass strongpoints, strike deep into enemy rear areas, and maintain momentum. Most Allied generals use tanks as mobile artillery or infantry support. Patton uses them correctly, as an independent strike force. Von Luck continued, if Patton had commanded German panzer armies instead of Guderian or Manstein, with our equipment and training, he would have been unstoppable. It's fortunate for Germany he was born American and unfortunate for Germany that he commanded against us. Another tank officer noted, meeting him, discussing armor tactics, I realized, this man thinks like Rommel. Fast, aggressive, always looking for the weak point to exploit. The Americans are lucky to have him. We were unlucky to face him. The comparison to Rommel appears frequently in German assessments. Both were aggressive armor commanders with theatrical personalities who inspired loyalty and achieved remarkable results. It's the highest compliment German tankers can give. While German officers respect Patton's military abilities, they're horrified by his political opinions, particularly his anti-Soviet views and his comments about German soldiers. In May-June 1945, Patton openly expresses views that shock both his superiors and captured German officers. We fought the wrong enemy. We should have fought the Russians, not the Germans. I'd rather have a German division under my command than a Russian one. German soldiers are professionals. Russians are barbarians. The Nazi Party is like the Democratic or Republican Party, just a political organization. We shouldn't punish all Germans for being party members. These comments, reported by German officers who hear them directly or through interpreters, create mixed reactions. Some German officers are pleased, finally, an American who understands the real threat is Soviet Russia, not Germany. We tried to warn the West about Stalin. Patton gets it. But others are appalled. He wants to recruit German soldiers to fight Russians. Is he insane? We just lost a war. Millions are dead. And this American general wants us to start another war immediately. His military brilliance doesn't excuse this madness. One officer summarized, Patton is a magnificent combat commander but a dangerous political thinker. Keep him on the battlefield and away from diplomacy. A pattern emerges in German officer assessments: professional respect for Patton's military abilities combined with personal distaste for his personality and politics. Generalleutnant Werner von Erdmannsdorf said after a tense meeting with Patton, as a soldier, I respect General Patton enormously. His conduct of operations from Normandy to Bavaria was exemplary. He exploited every German weakness, moved faster than we could respond, and defeated us thoroughly. If I were teaching at a military academy, I would use his campaigns as examples of proper offensive operations. He continued, as a man, I find him insufferable. His arrogance is matched only by his ignorance of European history and politics. He speaks of complex matters with the certainty of a child. He insults German honor while simultaneously praising German martial ability. He's contradictory, offensive, and exhausting. Another officer, I'm grateful the war is over because I couldn't bear losing to him again. But I'm also grateful I don't have to serve under him, because his personality would make that unbearable despite his competence. This dichotomy, respect for ability, dislike for personality, defines how German officers view Patton. They recognize his military genius. They cannot stand the man himself. A surprising comment from several German officers: America used Patton incorrectly during the war. General der Panzertruppe Hermann Bulck, one of Germany's finest tank commanders, said after the war, the Americans wasted Patton in France. They should have unleashed him in 1943 in Sicily or Italy, given him complete freedom of action, and let him drive all the way to Berlin. Instead, they kept him in England during the critical D-Day period, used him in a supporting role, and restrained his aggression throughout the campaign. Bulck continued, if Patton had commanded in Normandy from the beginning, with the full weight of Allied resources behind him and no political restraints, Germany would have collapsed in 1944. Fortunately for us, Eisenhower was cautious and kept Patton on a leash. That gave us extra months. Another officer concurred, Patton's Third Army in August 1944 was destroying German divisions faster than we could replace them. If he'd been doing that since June, the war would have ended before the Bulge, before the destruction of more German cities, before hundreds of thousands more deaths. The Americans won anyway, but they could have won faster with Patton unleashed earlier. This assessment contains both respect for Patton and criticism of American command for not using him more aggressively. German officers who planned or fought in the Battle of the Bulge, Ardennes Offensive, December 1944, express particular respect, and frustration, about Patton's response. The German plan assumed American forces would be slow to react. They expected weeks before effective counterattacks. Instead, Patton's Third Army turned 90 degrees north and attacked the German flank within 3 days, an operational feat German planners thought impossible. General Major Karl Thoholt, involved in Bulge planning, said, "We calculated every American division's location, their probable response times, their likely movements. We planned for Patton eventually turning north, but we expected 7 to 10 days before he could attack effectively. He did it in 3 days. Impossible. Yet he did it." Another officer, "When I heard Third Army had pivoted and was attacking our flank at Bastogne that quickly, I knew the offensive had failed. No American force should have been able to react that fast. But Patton did. That's when I realized we weren't fighting a conventional American commander, we were fighting someone who thought and moved at German speed." The relief of Bastogne becomes, in German assessments, the moment they realized Patton was different, and dangerous in ways they hadn't fully appreciated. German officers meeting or studying various Allied commanders frequently compare them, and Patton consistently receives unique assessments. On Eisenhower, a politician in uniform. Excellent at coalition management but not a battlefield commander. He coordinates others but doesn't fight himself. On Montgomery, cautious to the point of timidity. Meticulous planner but glacially slow. Effective when he has overwhelming superiority but can't improvise or take risks. On Bradley, competent and professional but unimaginative. He executes doctrine well but doesn't innovate or surprise. On Patton, a warrior. He understands that war is about killing the enemy faster than they can kill you, moving faster than they can respond, and never giving them time to recover. If all American generals were like Patton, Germany would have lost in 1943. General Feldmarschall Gerd von Rundstedt, who faced multiple Allied commanders, summarized, "The British and most American generals fight by the book, carefully, methodically, with massive preparation. This is effective but predictable. Patton fights like a gambler, taking risks, trusting his instincts, moving before he's ready if he sees an opportunity. It's more dangerous because it's less predictable." The German consensus, Patton alone among senior Allied commanders thought and fought like a German panzer general. When German officers learn about Patton's slapping of shell-shocked soldiers in Sicily, 1943, their reactions vary but often include a disturbing element, approval. A Wehrmacht officer, "Patton slapped soldiers suffering from combat fatigue and called them cowards. This shows he understands war is about willpower and discipline, not coddling weakness. Modern war requires steel, not sympathy." An SS officer expressed even harsher approval. The American press condemned Patton for this. "It proves Americans don't understand total war. Weakness must be rooted out. Patton understands this." But other German officers are appalled, hitting soldiers suffering from psychological trauma. This is not discipline, this is brutality that undermines morale and trust. We expect better from professional officers. The divide reflects broader German military culture. Old-school Prussian officers value compassion within discipline, Nazi-influenced officers approve of harsh treatment, and younger professional officers recognize that combat stress is real and requires treatment, not punishment. Interestingly, the slapping incidents don't diminish German respect for Patton's military abilities, they're seen as separate from his tactical genius. But they confirm many Germans' view that Patton is emotionally unstable and politically unreliable. German officers notice a contradiction in Patton. He seems to hate Germany politically but respect German military professionalism. One officer observed, General Patton makes speeches about destroying Nazi Germany and hangs Nazi leaders. But then he meets German officers and discusses tactics with genuine interest and respect. He separates the regime from the professional military. This is rare among Allied commanders. Another noted, he told me the Nazi Party was evil and deserved destruction. Then he asked detailed questions about our panzer tactics in Russia and listened carefully to my answers. He respects German military expertise even while condemning German politics. This selective respect confuses some Germans. Does he hate us or respect us? He seems to want to destroy Germany but employ German soldiers. He condemns Nazism but wants to recruit Wehrmacht for anti-Soviet operations. The contradictions are dizzying. The explanation seems to be, Patton views Germans through a purely military lens. Professional German soldiers are fellow warriors worthy of respect. The Nazi political system is evil and deserves destruction. German civilians are irrelevant to him. This compartmentalized view allows Patton to simultaneously admire German military culture and advocate for Germany's complete political restructuring. One of the most discussed encounters, a dinner between Patton and captured General Feldmarschall Gerd von Rundstedt, senior German commander on the Western Front. The dinner, in June 1945, was intended as a professional courtesy between military commanders. It became a strange mix of mutual respect and political tension. Von Rundstedt later described the evening, General Patton treated me with professional courtesy. We discussed campaigns, France, the Bulge, the final drive into Germany. He asked intelligent questions about our tactics and acknowledged our skill, though he noted our mistakes. As pure military discussion, it was valuable and respectful. But the conversation turned political. Patton began talking about the Soviet threat and suggesting Germany should have allied with America against Russia. He said we fought the wrong war. I told him that's absurd. Germany started the war, Germany committed terrible crimes, Germany deserved to lose. He didn't seem to understand or care about the moral dimension, only the strategic one. Von Rundstedt's conclusion, Patton is a brilliant tactician with the political sophistication of a teenager. Keep him commanding armies in war, where his aggression and tactical sense are assets. Never let him influence policy, where his ignorance and prejudices are dangerous. Other German officers who hear about the dinner agree, Patton the warrior deserves respect. Patton the political thinker deserves contempt. An ironic comment appears in multiple German assessments, thank God Patton isn't German, we'd have lost sooner. What they mean, if Patton had commanded German forces with his aggressive style, Germany might have won early victories but would have burned through resources and manpower unsustainably. His risk-taking would have led to catastrophic encirclements, like the ones that destroyed German armies in Russia. His political opinions would have created even more problems for Germany internationally. As one officer put it, Patton's brilliance works within the American system, unlimited resources, industrial superiority, and constraints imposed by more cautious superiors. In the German system, with limited resources and Hitler's interference, Patton's aggression would have been disastrous. Another, we needed Manstein's calculated risks and Guderian's armored expertise. Patton's all-out aggression would have played into Soviet hands in Russia. The Americans can afford Patton's casualties because they have millions of men and infinite supplies. We couldn't afford that kind of commander. The paradox, German officers admire Patton precisely because his style is enabled by American advantages they didn't have. His tactics work because America's resources allow aggressive operations with sustainable losses. Germany lacked those advantages, so they needed different commanders. In the years after the war, captured and retired German officers writing memoirs and giving interviews consistently rank Patton among the finest Allied commanders, while maintaining reservations about his character. General Feldmarschall Albert Kesselring, in his memoir, A Soldier's Record, writes, of the Allied commanders I faced or studied, Patton was the most dangerous. Not the best planner, that was Montgomery. Not the best coalition leader, that was Eisenhower. But the most dangerous on the battlefield because of his speed, aggression, and tactical instincts. Fighting Patton was like fighting Rommel, you had to be perfect, or he would exploit every mistake. Heinz Guderian, founder of German Panzer doctrine, when asked about Allied armor commanders, said, Patton understood armor warfare. Most Allied generals used tanks incorrectly, as infantry support or breakthrough tools. Patton used them as we did, mobile striking forces. If I were teaching armor tactics, I would use some of Patton's campaigns as examples, alongside our own. But the character critiques persist: brilliant commander, terrible diplomat, dangerous political thinker. The perfect man to win battles and the worst man to win peace. This becomes the enduring German assessment. Patton was a magnificent battlefield commander whose personality and politics undermined his greatness. What German officers said after meeting George S. Patton reveals a complicated truth: they respected his military genius unreservedly. He understood warfare at the highest level, perhaps better than any other Allied commander. They could not stand his personality, arrogant, offensive, dismissive, and exhausting. They found his political views dangerous. His anti-Soviet obsession and desire to immediately rearm Germany showed poor judgment. They recognized a kindred military spirit. He fought like a German panzer general, which was their highest compliment. The most telling summary comes from General Major von Mellenthin, who wrote, meeting General Patton, I understood three things. First, he was the finest tactical commander the Americans produced. Second, he would have been a superb German general in an earlier era. Third, thank God he was on their side and not ours, because fighting against him was difficult enough. Fighting with him might have been impossible. This encapsulates the German view. Patton was a warrior they could respect professionally, a personality they couldn't tolerate personally, and a force they were relieved to have faced as an enemy rather than serve beside as an ally. In the end, German officers' comments about Patton reveal more than just opinions about one general. They reveal how professional soldiers evaluate each other across the battlefield divide, recognizing brilliance even in enemies, acknowledging flaws even in successful commanders, and understanding that greatness in war doesn't guarantee wisdom in peace. Patton beat them. They respected that. They also respected that his own superiors eventually removed him from command for political unreliability. Both facts, in German estimation, confirmed what they learned meeting him. George S. Patton was born to fight wars, not manage their aftermath.